I think Pete's going to have a good year. Like I said, 3 out of 5 of his full seasons, he's hit 40 plus bombs and 115 plus RBIs. And we don't need Pete Alonso to be the 2022 version where he hit 271 in this lineup. That's the best part about Pete Alonso in this lineup. We don't need Pete Alonso to even hit 260 plus. We just need him to hit like 235 plus and give us 40 home runs and give us 110 plus RBIs, which I think he is totally capable of doing. I mean, if we're calling Pete Alonso not clutch, that's what the big thing was about Pete Alonso all offseason. He's not clutch. Well, I beg to differ because he's had over an 850 OPS with runners in scoring position every single season beside 2024. And then in 2024, in the most crucial clutch spot of all time, what did he do? With 1 out and the Mets down by 2 in the 9th inning against Devin Williams, who I just called the best closing pitcher in baseball since he's been up. What did he do? He had an opposite field home run. Game, series, it was a game winning and a series winning home run. The most clutch home run I could say probably I've ever seen. You can go back before, obviously, 2000 when I was born, but that was ultimately the most clutch home run I've ever seen. And I'm so happy it was Pete Alonso, by the way. And then he had three other clutch home runs in the NLCS. I know we lost that series, but he had a first inning home run, which was clutch. He set the tone. So Pete Alonso, all he needs to do is just really hit home runs. And he, since 2019, has been the second best home run hitter in all of baseball outside of Aaron Judge. And he's only 1 home run behind him. And to add to that, Pete Alonso doesn't get hurt. Knock on wood, that stays. Like, it stays how it is. But he played in every single game last season. All 162 regular season games, all 13 or 14 playoff games, I believe. I'm not sure the exact number. But he didn't miss a single game. He has never missed more than 10 games in a season. Pete Alonso is durable. He's one of the best power hitters in baseball. Defensively, he's better than you think because, like I said, nobody's better at scooping baseballs at first base than Pete Alonso, and that does matter. That does matter, especially when you got a guy like Francisco Lindor at shortstop who can make that backhand play. So, Pete, I expect him to have a really good 2025 season. And I hope he makes it super hard on Steve Cohen and David Stearns to let him walk. Because I don't think we're going to end up with Vladdy. And we're going to get into that a little bit. Talked about it on the last pod, but the Mets are not going to sign Vladdy at all because they're not going to want to have another large contract. They're paying Francisco Lindor over $30 million. They're paying Juan Soto over $50 million. Brandon Nimmo is also making a large chunk of change. Pete Alonso, if they bring him back, he'll likely get 20, 25 plus $million. But why would it make sense to give Vladdy, like, let's say he's probably going to get a 12 to 13, maybe even 14-year deal this offseason, looking for over $40 million a year? Would you rather have Vladdy or would you rather have Pete Alonso, who's going to come for much cheaper and less years? Because Vladdy is also going, just like Juan Soto, we expect him to be a DH down the road or a first baseman. Why would you want two guys who in 6 to 7 years making that much money, who are both candidates to become DHs? It wouldn't make sense. It would also hurt them. Not just like that, but how do they spend other money? How are they able to extend a guy like a Brandon Nimmo? How are they able to sign a starting pitcher, re-sign a starting pitcher like Sean Manaea? Because I see it with the Yankees right now. Look at all their big contracts. Carlos Rodon, Max Fried, Garrett Cole, Aaron Judge, Giancarlo Stanton. That's 5 huge contracts. And look at their third baseman this year, DJ LeMahieu. And Marcus Stroman, who's also making $18 million a year. Bad contracts are hurting the Yankees right now. I'm not going to say that Aaron Judge and Garrett Cole are bad contracts, but the other ones, they aren't great. That's a fact. They are great contracts. Nobody's sitting here saying Giancarlo Stanton should be making the money he's making based off the numbers he's produced over the past few years with the Yankees. I mean, he makes his mark in the postseason. That's the key for him. He gets to the postseason healthy, and the Yankees get an MVP caliber player out of him. But in the regular season, he doesn't really elevate the Yankees as much as he used to when he was with the Marlins. So I don't want the Mets to put themselves in that position by signing a Vladdy. And take two on this. The Mets aren't the Yankees or the Dodgers. Like the Yankees, even though they have DJ LeMahieu as their third baseman and they have all these bad contracts, I feel like they still could have afforded to go after like an Alex Bregman or even like, let's say, a Christian Walker instead of Paul Goldschmidt, because they make a ton of money. They are such a profitable organization. They are a brand. The Yankees aren't just a team. They are a brand. You go to other countries and people are wearing New York Yankees hats. People come to New York City that don't even know anything about baseball, and they just want to go to Yankee Stadium because it's New York's Coliseum. And same thing with the LA Dodgers. The Dodgers are such a profitable organization. The TV deals that they have, all the sponsorships that they have. The Mets don't make as much profit as those two teams. Like Steve Cohen went into his pockets to sign Juan Soto. He went into his own pockets to bring back Pete Alonso. He said it himself just last week in a press conference. He doesn't want to have this many large contracts. He doesn't. So I think we need to, one, as Mets fans, stop being greedy and just expect, since Vladdy is going to be available, that the Mets should undoubtedly get him. Like, I don't think the Mets are even going to make a play for Vladdy. The Mets, they made a play for Yamamoto a few years ago, and I'm very happy that that didn't work out. Because having that guy for $325 million, that is a very big risk. But for the Dodgers, it's not that big of a risk because they can afford it. And also, Ohtani, who is also a generational free agent, the Mets didn't even make a play for him. Why? Because they knew they wanted to save for a guy like Juan Soto hitting free agency next year. So that's why I don't think the Mets are going to end up with Vladdy. I really don't. And I think we need to stop being greedy and saying the Mets need to go out there and sign Kyle Tucker or sign Vladdy. I would love Kyle Tucker. I think Kyle Tucker makes sense. I think he would come for a lot cheaper than Vladimir Guerrero Jr. And two, I think it would be a better fit overall. He's a very good defender out in the outfield. I think we could plug him in left field, have Brandon Nimmo DH for a few more years, or ship Brandon Nimmo back to center field, worst case. Or you have Brandon Nimmo go over to right field, have Juan Soto. Let's say you lose Pete Alonso, put Juan Soto over at first base. You got Brandon Nimmo, Kyle Tucker, and whoever you want, whether it's another year of Tyrone Taylor and Jose Siri in center, whether it's a Drew Gilbert who makes his mark, whether it's a Luis Angel Acuna, whether it's a Jet Williams. The Mets have options in the 2026 offseason outside of Vladdy. And to be honest, I know it sounds very biased, but I'd rather have Pete Alonso as my first baseman than Vladimir Guerrero Jr. And Vladdy is undoubtedly the better player, but value-wise, that's the key. When you look at the last 4 years of each of Vladdy's and Pete Alonso's careers, Vladdy has had two better seasons than Pete, and Pete has had two better seasons than Vlad. In 2021, Vlad won. In 2022, Pete Alonso won. Let's take a look at Vlad's 2022 numbers. 32 home runs, 97 RBIs, with an 818 OPS. Pete Alonso in 2022 led the league with 131 RBIs, hit 40 home runs, had a 271 batting average with an 869 OPS. 2023, Pete hit 217 with an 821 OPS and crushed 46 home runs with 118 RBIs. Vladdy hit 264 with a 788 OPS and only had 26 home runs. So Pete Alonso, we're crapping on him for hitting this year. Like, look at Pete Alonso's 2024 compared to Vladdy's 2023. You can make a case that Pete Alonso had a better 2024 than Vlad's 2023 year. Pete Alonso this past season hit 240 with a 788 OPS, 34 home runs, and 88 RBIs. In 2023, Vlad hit 264 with a 788 OPS, the same exact OPS as Pete Alonso had in 2024, and only had 26 home runs and only 94 RBIs. So Pete Alonso's 2024 was the same as Vlad's 2023, and there's people who want to give Vladimir Guerrero Jr. a 12-year deal worth over $400 million. That's insane to me. That is a risk. And people make fun of Pete for being, let's say, husky or fat. Vladdy is also fat. Vladdy came into the league, and the biggest thing about him was weight. And I hate saying this about players, but once he gets his money, is Vladdy going to work as hard to control that weight? Is he? So you could say Pete Alonso's fat, but then why can't you say that Vladdy is fat too? I don't get it. I don't get it. And like I said, Pete's 2024 was just as good as Vladdy's 2023. So Vlad had the better year in 2024 and 2021, but Pete Alonso had the better year in 2022 and 2023. Whether you like it or not, that's just a fact. And Pete Alonso wouldn't take a 12-year, $400 million deal. I think Pete could take like a 5-year, $125 million deal. $25 million a year for 5 years. Sign him till he's 36. And then in 5 years, once he's gone, Juan Soto DH. There you go. Right there. That's what I would do this offseason. But what's up, Uncle Brian? Uncle Brian, my guy, says no way we should sign Vlad for that kind of money. I agree. Doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. I think Pete isn't the better player, but value-wise, I think the Mets would get more for their buck out of Pete Alonso than Vladdy. And like I said, I don't want Juan Soto and Vladdy at the tail end of their careers both having that DH off. Who are we going to put at DH? Because one of them will need to be a DH.